Hello, welcome to our special event. We're excited to be here. This is a WooCommerce Live Special Event focused on customizing WooCommerce with confidence. I'm Jonathan Wold. I lead community initiatives here at WooCommerce, and I've been in the world of WordPress, e-commerce, and community for about 15 years now, and having a lot of fun. With me today is my co-host, Noëlle Steegs. Hey, Noëlle, good to see you.
Hey, good to see you too.
Noëlle found the WooCommerce community about 8 years ago when she started building her own store on WooCommerce. She loved it, and not long after, she decided to start working with clients. Today, she's a web developer and a WooCommerce specialist, and she also volunteers here in the WooCommerce community. And we have a special guest that we're both really excited about that will be joining us a little bit later today. So a few things to know before we jump into today's event. The event is going to be recorded. You'll be able to access it on our YouTube channel shortly after. Questions are welcome. You can put questions in chat throughout the event and after. And after the main event, which will be about an hour long, we'll be opening it up to Q&A. So you can save your questions for the end, and we look forward to those. So in our last special event, we focused on how to go from idea to first customer. And it was very kind of business focused, and we recommended WooCommerce as a great platform for a number of different reasons. In this event, we're focusing more on WooCommerce specifically and how to work with it. And our goal with this event is to give you confidence. We want you to feel confident about working with WooCommerce, especially if you haven't worked with it before. So over the course of this hour, we're going to start out with an overview of WooCommerce. Going to give you, we'll talk a little bit about what it is and why open source matters, and give you an overview of some of the ways that you can customize WooCommerce, both out of the box and with extensions. We will also be giving you an introduction and on how to use code to customize WooCommerce, and we'll be doing some live coding with our special guest. And our focus with that is to give you confidence to just get in and begin to play with things and achieve what you're after, even if you've never touched code before at all. So I'm very excited about that. And then we'll wrap up talking about the WooCommerce community and some of the resources that are available for you to help you succeed with whatever you're trying to do with WooCommerce. And as I mentioned, at the end, once we're done, we'll have plenty of time available for questions. So as we're going along, if there's things that you're curious about, if there's areas of WooCommerce that you're especially interested in trying to figure out how to customize, keep that in mind throughout the event today and bring those questions to us at the end. And we very much look forward to those. So before we jump in, Noëlle, would you mind introducing our guest today?
Yeah, let's give a warm welcome to our guest, Rodolfo Melogli from businessbloomer.com.
Rodolfo,
hey, Rodolfo.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here.
Rodolfo,
first time. Yeah.
Awesome. So happy to have you. Rodolfo is an author, WooCommerce expert, and WordCamp speaker, and he's been working as a WooCommerce freelancer since 2011. His goal is to help entrepreneurs and developers have success with WooCommerce. He loves traveling, chasing tennis and soccer balls, and of course, wood-fired pizza.
Nice.
So, Rodolfo, I'm curious, how did you get into WooCommerce?
Right, that's a very good question. I think it was about 2011, and I'm just going to switch off my video because my connection is not great, if that's okay.
Yeah, you sound great though. Carry on. You're good.
Yeah, okay, excellent. So it was about 2011, and I was let go by my engineering company, and I said, fine, I'm Italian, I'm abroad, I was in Ireland at the time, I'm just gonna open a bakery. I'm Italian, of course I should bake, right? I have no experience with cooking, baking, no idea whatsoever. But I said, I have no money. I'm just going to do an online shop where I can sell my cakes and my biscuits and stuff. And what I was, coming up with the With the website, I say, hold on, I don't like baking. I like doing websites. And, 2011, that was the trigger that got me into e-commerce. And after a few months, I would have basically designed the first e-commerce website for a client. And, out of all these solutions at the time, I just said, fine, I'm going to go ahead with WooCommerce. So it was maybe lucky and fun at the same time. And since then, I haven't looked back. So that's my story. And just to finish this up, I am not a coder. So I'm not a developer. I just learned by examples. And today's goal would actually be to get a lot of people started with coding, even if they're afraid about, writing a little bit of code. This is how you learn, and this is how you can grow. And, you can become like me, maybe in less time. It took me 10 years. Maybe it could take you 1 year only.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you for that background, Rodolfo, and thanks for all that you've done in the community. You've been writing tutorials and sharing resources for years, and it's been fantastic. And I know it takes a lot of time and effort, so we appreciate all that you've done.
It does. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, so let's get going. Let's just talk a little bit about what WooCommerce is before we get into the how to customize. So open source software is something that most folks are at least familiar with at a high level, but if you haven't looked into it, it might not be clear kind of what it is, right? So open source means that it's usually how the software itself is licensed, and there's different rules about how that works. But in the context of WordPress and WooCommerce, they use a license called the GPL, which includes 4 freedoms. And this is the part that matters for you and a reason why you want to work with open source software. The first is the freedom to use the software however you want, right? Like whatever your idea is, whatever you're wanting to build as open source software, you have the freedom to use it in whatever way that you'd like. The second is to have access to the source code for it, to be able to get in and understand how it works. The third is to be able to share kind of to redistribute it however you want to. And the fourth is to make changes to it and share your changes. And why that matters to you as a store owner is that when you build on WooCommerce and WordPress, like as that foundation, in a very real sense, it's yours. You can do whatever you want with it. You can share it in whatever ways that you want. And there's a freedom that comes with that, right? Like that's something that, if you choose to not update it, we recommend that you do. There's a lot of good reasons to do that, but no one can make you do anything with it, right? It's yours. And that's can give you a lot of confidence in terms of the foundation that you're building on. And the way that I like to think about that I found it helpful, there's a lot of great proprietary platforms out there that you can help you get up and running and get started. And there's good reasons to use them. At the end of the day, though, if you're building on someone else's platform, it's like you're renting, right? And there's pros and cons for that. And that can be a great way to get something started. Ownership, though, means that you have the autonomy to do sort of whatever you want with it. And there are trade-offs. But when you're building a business, though, we think it's really important to have that confidence in the foundation that you're building on. And that's something that you can have with WordPress and WooCommerce. There's also a lot of flexibility to it, right? Within an open source ecosystem, because it's open source, you have a lot more people who are willing to build extensions for it, who are willing to support it. There's this sense of shared ownership that we have as a community, where the more of us are having success with it, the more it helps all of us, right? Like you don't even have to be altruistic to recognize the benefit of contributing to open source. And the last thing, if you didn't know this about WooCommerce, according to builtwith.com, more than 30% of all e-commerce stores on the web are running on WooCommerce. The next closest is 18%. So it's big and it's growing fast. And there's a large community of other store owners and developers and folks like Rodolfo who care about this ecosystem. They're putting time and energy into helping people succeed. So that's just a little bit of context on WooCommerce and why we're excited about it. I'll talk a bit more about the community and the mission, et cetera, later. But for now, let's jump into it. So Noëlle in just a moment. And I guess before I go any further, Rodolfo, you know WordPress WooCommerce well. Is there anything that you would just add to what I've shared about how to think about WooCommerce in a broad level?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are scared when they first install WooCommerce, and there is so much to it. But even the other software is not that simple. I think you need a little bit of time to get around it, and I always recommend when you get into coding to download the plugin files and just take a look at what's inside. A lot of people start with coding without even knowing what code is made of the WooCommerce plugin. So that's a good thing. Just spend a little bit of time on looking through all those files and see which folders are inside the plugin, just to get an idea of it. And the same applies to the settings. So in the dashboard, in the WordPress dashboard, there are so many pages and so many sections where the WooCommerce settings can be found.
Yep.
I recommend spend as much time as possible just skimming through them and see what they do, what you can do, what you cannot do. And I think that's a very good starting point for a beginner.
Fantastic.
Getting to know WooCommerce. Yeah.
So we're going to actually jump into that now together. So Noëlle, would you go ahead and take us on this tour? One of the things we're going to do next is talk a little bit about the different sections of WooCommerce, and Noëlle is going to be our tour guide. So I will turn it over to you and take us where you want us to go.
Thanks so much, Jonathan. Right. So my aim is to just give you a general idea of the settings that are in Woo and the things that you can achieve with WooCommerce without any extra plugins, right? Obviously, there's a lot of options, and I won't be able to cover them all today, but I will share some highlights. So we under settings now in the general tab, and there's a couple of important things here. For example, you can control which countries you sell and ship to, and the default customer location. Now, this is one that gets often overlooked because here you have access to geolocation. And what Geo does is, without the customer entering their address, it can detect in which country the customer is and then show shipping rates based on that, which can be very useful. It's also used for multi-currency functionality. Here you can also control whether you want to enable tax calculations, coupons. You can control how your currency displays. So if you want to have a space in between, for example, if you want to have decimals or not, those kind of things. So on to the products. This is also quite useful. You can control what happens when you add to cart. So you can, like when you're on the product page and you add to cart, you can just add it to cart and it will have a notice that shows up, or it can take you to the cart page after you add it, which can be useful, especially for smaller stores. You can set the weight and the dimensions that you use for shipping. You can control the reviews. I know a lot of my clients, they don't like anybody to be able to add reviews. So here you can make sure that only verified owners, so only people who have actually purchased it in your store, can leave a review. And you can control the star ratings as well. Onto inventory, you can enable or disable stock management so that WooCommerce tracks the stock of all the products. If you work with limited edition products, tickets, things like that, you might want to hold stock. So when it's in the cart, but it's not paid for a certain amount of time. You can also get notifications when things are out of stock or low stock, which can be quite useful. And control whether or not products that are out of stock, whether they are shown in the catalog or not. And you can also have people back order it. So depending on what setup you're looking for, this is really useful. You can also show the stock count on product pages, or only when it's low, and the low threshold you can define here. WooCommerce also natively supports downloadable products, which settings you'll find here. I will get back to virtual downloadable products in a bit. If you have enabled tags, then this is where you control that. You can choose to enter your prices inclusive or exclusive of tax. You can define different rates. You can, display it with a suffix, like it will say like including VAT on the product page. And in these tabs, you can control the different rates. So you can do it based on country and state and city. So you can get really quite granular with everything that's already built into Woo. Shipping. I see a lot of questions about shipping. And again, the options in Woo itself are really quite awesome. He can define shipping zones and add different options. For example, flat rate, you can set it for local pickups. You can control free shipping as well. And what I find really useful is being able to say whether or not you want people to be able to calculate shipping on the cart page or not. Or in some cases, you only want to show it at checkout. Again, it depends on your setup. Often overlooked, we've got shipping classes, and shipping classes allow for a more fine-tuned control. So for example, if you have some items that are very heavy and some are very light, then you can choose here when you add it. You can add shipping classes. You can assign it to products, which I will show in a moment. And then over here, let me just quickly show you. You can say, okay, this shipping class adds so much, and you can calculate it either per class or you charge for the most expensive one. Yeah, like I said, you can get really quite specific with that. In the WooCommerce marketplace, I would say most big couriers have their own shipping plugins there as well, where you can get things like live rates and things like that. Right, next is payments. Again, lots of options. We got like the cash on delivery, check and direct bank transfers. PayPal is included here, but with plugins, you can add Stripe. For US people, WooCommerce Payments is excellent because you can see the payments like right in the dashboard, which is pretty cool. For people who are also looking for offline payments, Square Payments is really awesome. Under accounts and privacy, you can control how people can check out, for example, whether they can check out as a guest or not. I would say most stores will want to allow guest checkout, except for maybe when you have a B2B store and you deal with wholesale and you only want registered people to be able to log in and purchase and not just anybody. In emails, you can see WooCommerce has quite a few email types built in. You can also control some basic styling over here. And this one, for example, is for the new order. So you can control things like the subject and email heading in these tabs. And then to get back to like account creation, when people log into my account, and a lot of people don't know this, but you can control the different tabs that you see in the My Account page. If you don't want to show downloads, you just delete this and hit save, and the downloads tab will be gone. Next, I would like to show you a bit about the products. So let's dive in here. There's a few different types that you should be aware of that can be useful to you. So you can have variable products, which means that people can choose different options like sizes and colors. You have the group products as well, which allows people to add a group of products to their cart in one go. Here you can control on a product level whether to manage stock. You can choose whether people can only buy one at a time of the product. This is where you set shipping classes that I just mentioned. You can choose upsells and cross-sells. Upsells display at the bottom of the product page. So better products, more expensive products that you want to recommend as an alternative. Cross-sells are shown at the cart that are complementary. Here you can add attributes, such as, say, for example, color and sizes. And what they are useful for creating variable products, so where people can choose options, but they're also very useful for filtering. And I'll show you the widgets just in a bit. I think that's it for the products, or the ones that I want to show you. I'll quickly touch on the widgets that are available built into Woo. So remember, I just showed you the attributes. Here is a filter that you can filter by attribute, really useful. There's price, rating. You can show categories, a product search. So that way you can build your own sidebar.
Noëlle, the screen seems to have
Yes.
frozen on the widgets. Everything has been perfect up till then, but it's still showing us the product page.
Oh, that's odd. Okay, let me stop my screen share and let me share it again.
Yeah, there hasn't been any other issues. It just froze there for some reason. So let's give that a shot.
Huh, okay.
Okay, I'm going to put it back on.
Are we back?
And give it just a moment.
Yes, we're back.
There we
Okay.
go. Now we see widgets. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right. One of the last things that I quickly want to show is in the customizer under appearance. There's some settings there as well. And you can use a store notice here. Here it's for demos, but I actually recently used it for a client for like a COVID notice. You can control how products or subcategories display on category pages, products per row, kind of thing. You can control images. And here for checkout, you can choose whether or not to hide or display certain fields, make phone required, those kind of things. And then also, I mean, so you can see there's a lot built into Woo, but you can extend it further. For example, on the marketplace, and let me quickly navigate there. There is a whole bunch of extensions in all different categories. For example, there are ones that offer dynamic pricing that you can use for a B2B, like wholesale pricing. Like I said, most careers have extensions on here. You can take bookings as well. There is really a lot to choose from. So, and that's what I love about Woo. I mean, I started working with Woo 8 years ago, and I'm just time and time again impressed with its flexibility. That's one of the reasons why I just, always stuck around.
Amazing. Excellent. All right. So that was, and like you said at the beginning, there's a lot to take in, but when you start to look at it and exercise a little bit of curiosity about it, then you can say, oh, wow, there's this, that, like, as I'm watching you, there's things that I've forgotten about, or it's like, oh, I don't remember if that was there before. It's pretty cool to see. So now we're going to jump in and begin to talk about code and, well, just talk a little bit about what it is first. The way that I found it helpful for me to think about, and the way that I've explained it, like your website's doing a job for you, right? Like you have WordPress, WooCommerce up and running, and it's doing a job for you. And the way that I like to think about it is like code is like instructions that until something changes, your website continues to follow, right? Like you put together some instructions this is what you want it to do for you. And until you make a change or something else changes it, that's what your website's going to just keep doing, right? WooCommerce is made out of code. So the code that you write is going to be in a language that your website that it understands, right? So the common languages that we work with are called like PHP, CSS, JavaScript, and you put together instructions in code that help your website know to tell it it tells it how to function, how to look, and then even how to interact with other websites. So why does this matter? Code gives you flexibility, right? Like you can write anything that you want, any ideas that you sort of come up with, improvements that you want to make, changes, adjustments. You can. There's very little limitations, and when you think about this idea of owning versus renting, code is one of the big differences, right? This is the equivalent of being able to put whatever you want on your walls, right? Or put up a new wall entirely, or put up a new little outbuilding, or kind of whatever it is, because it's yours, right? So there are a few ways that I would encourage for you to think about code. First is just to be curious, like Rodolfo said earlier, like downloading it and just looking at it. And it's not going to make sense, presumably, but just sort of looking and seeing like, oh, this is this, and being curious about it, and then experimenting a bit. And what you're going to see in a few minutes here is some of the ways that you can experiment, and just getting in there and doing it yourself. When you experiment, just a little, if you have a site that's up and running, we highly recommend that you set up a separate environment to do your experiments, because within the world of e-commerce, right, people could be buying at any time. We don't want to break something for your existing customers. So if you haven't set up a live environment or a duplicate environment before, work with your hosting company to help figure out how to do that. And that could be where you get that in, right? That's really important. Okay, so now there's a lot that we could show you. We talked about it amongst ourselves, and we decided to focus on 3 areas. We're going to look at the single product page. We're going to look at the checkout page, and we're going to look at the shop page. Those are the ones where most of the customization tends to happen. And for each of those, we're going to look at some of the elements, like removing elements that you don't need, adding things in, and then how you can customize the look and feel with CSS. So just before we jump into that, we want to talk a little bit about CSS. And Noëlle, would you kind of help us know, like, what is CSS? How should we think about it? And then we'll go to Rodolfo from there.
Yes, of course. So CSS, you can think of it like this. If HTML are the structure, the walls and the roof of our house, that's what HTML is for a website. Then the CSS are the wallpapers and the carpet. It's all the styling that you see. And I just quickly want to demonstrate what happens when you take that away. Okay, so you see this website here. This is without any CSS. So you just see the structural elements, but that's about it, okay? So this is why CSS is important. Otherwise, the internet would just be an ugly place.
Good-looking pizza.
Yeah, exactly. I really want to encourage people to be curious and experiment. I mean, that's how I got into things. I mean, I'm a web developer now, but back then I was so excited I could change the color with CSS, which is something I want to show you today. One of the tools that was really useful in my journey is what's called the inspector. Now, I like working in Chrome. But also Firefox has a great inspector. So you get there by right-clicking on your website and clicking inspect. Then you can, I like to use this little arrow here, and you can highlight whichever item you will want to customize, right? I find it the easiest way to do it like this. And say we change the color here. Let's make it green. If you want to experiment with color, and this is just local, right? So you're not changing it in your site yet. You're not saving it to your site yet. So you can do whatever you want in here, really.
Hey, Noëlle?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just realized. Could you share the bigger window? It's not showing the inspector. It's just showing the result of it. So I think you might have to share, because like we're seeing the result, which is perfect, but we're not seeing the inspector show up. So I think you might have to show.
Okay, hold on. I'm quickly going to change that.
It's harder without a second monitor.
If I say, because if I say tab, then it's going to show everything. Can you see it now?
Yes, let me try that. Yeah, okay, whatever you did, that worked. Perfect.
Okay, thank you. So if you click on this little square, then you have a color picker. So you can say like, okay, I want to get my color from another place of the site, and you can match it to there. You can drag this around, you can drag this around, so you can really experiment all that you want here. I'm going to show you how to save this to your website in additional CSS. For that, I click Customize. And I scroll down until I see additional CSS. And I'm actually traveling and on a laptop, so things are getting a little bit squished here, but I hope it's still all okay.
It looks great. It looks great.
Okay, right. So over here, I want to style the title. So I am going to take this bit here, and you can see it highlights the title, so it's the right thing. And I am going to copy it over here. And I am going to say color. Let's take that sea green again. And you can see it immediately changes over here. Now, the last thing about CSS that I also quickly want to show you is the concept of media queries. Media queries control different styles on different screen sizes. So I say add media, and I will say max width for 79 pixels. So this is the media query I like for smartphones. And I will take this, and I just want to make the text a little bit smaller on smartphones, right? I will say font size 5 pixels. And then when I use this thing next to the arrow, I can control. Okay, now it's getting really small. Sorry about that. What's happening here? That's not what I planned. Okay, I'm quickly going to publish this first. Sorry about that.
No, it's perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so over here, you can now see it is smaller on mobile. That's exactly what media queries do. So you can get really granular over how you want things to look on different screen sizes.
And what I love about that too is like you've done that all within WordPress, right? Like it's something that someone can experiment. And for most folks, they haven't done any CSS, but you can bring that up and you can see things. You don't even have to click publish. You can see what it does, and you can use the inspector to pick those elements. That's fantastic.
Right, so that was CSS. Now Rodolfo will talk us through PHP code, which allows you to remove elements, add elements. It's so powerful.
All right, Rodolfo, you ready for your big moment?
Yeah, always ready.
Awesome.
Okay.
So go ahead and share your screen when you're ready, and I'll bring it up.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it right away. My entire screen. Here we go. Just tell me if everything is working, so I'll go. And
perfect. Looks great.
And get started. So first of all, I just want to say, everyone, just don't get scared. You're basically, looking at these things in 40 minutes while people take 4 years to maybe get something done. So you're lucky enough, and just take the most of it. If you have questions, just ask them, don't worry, and we'll try to do our best to answer. So what I have here is a development website. It has a shop page. It has, a cart page, checkout page, then the single product pages. These are called templates. Okay, so the way WooCommerce generates these visual result is by providing us coders with templates. Okay, so imagine of templates like a skeleton. If you can get into this, everything will be much easier. Inside the skeleton, there are different areas. For example, your feet, your hands, your head. And then thanks to instructions, WooCommerce go and outputs the final display. And this thing, the way WooCommerce goes from a standard default template to the final result is achieved thanks to something called hooks. Hooks are very helpful and in the WordPress world. So it's not only with WooCommerce, this thing. A great plugin, a great theme is recognizable when it provides you with a lot of hooks. In this way, you can override, you can remove, you can add, you can edit anything you like without touching any core files. Because if you do that, you're going to get in trouble. At the next update, you're going to override everything and lose all your customization. So hooks are just great tools to customize WooCommerce and anything related to WordPress. If everything is clear, I'm just going to go ahead and show you a few examples of coding. That okay?
Sounds good.
Great, excellent. So the easiest thing in WooCommerce and in general in WordPress is to remove elements. So let's imagine we are on the single product page. This is the standard simple product. It has customer reviews, it has the price, it has the add to cart buttons, it has this area called the product tabs, it has this area called related products. Well, the easiest thing to do in relation to customization is removing items from it. Let's say your client, or if it is your own website, you don't need the product tabs, fine. There is a super easy way. It's basically one line of code that you can use, even if you don't know anything about coding, to remove that section, okay? So to overcome all your fears about coding, I actually developed something called the Visual Hook Guides. These are quite popular among website developers. So there is a visual hook guide for the single product that looks like this. There you go. It's basically showing you the product page, right? But in between all the elements, there is the list of WooCommerce hooks that you can use to add or remove content from this template page, thanks to a little bit of coding. Now, I recommend you spend some time looking at these. We're just going to skip to the list of actions that WooCommerce, as I said earlier, uses to put together the single product page and make it look like what you see on the front end. So it goes like that. WooCommerce decides, and I'm looking at this line, for example. I don't know if it's big enough.
It looks good. We can read it.
Just going to zoom a little bit. Okay, cool. What it does, this is inside the WooCommerce plugin code, okay? So with this instruction, WooCommerce says, fine, position yourself where? In the WooCommerce single product summary. Okay, so it'll be somewhere around the single product template, and show the title. Then after that, position yourself in the single product summary position and show the price. Position yourself in that same position and show the rating. And then in that same position, show the short description, which is the excerpt. So this is how WooCommerce is built. This is how WooCommerce puts together the information that you actually see on a page like this. And the beauty of these visual hook guides and overall of the way WooCommerce is built is that you can simply get this piece of code, this exact piece of code, and remove an element that WooCommerce adds. Now, I haven't said something very, very important, which is, hold on, how do we code? Where do we place code? So, because we are looking at code for the very first time, I recommend that you go into the WordPress dashboard, go into plugins, and add new, and you will get to this page. And what you go and search for is code snippets. This is a very handy plugin for beginners to add custom code, and here it is. Custom code to the WordPress website, such as PHP, such as JavaScript, such as CSS, even if you want to, but I strongly disagree with that. Just use that for PHP if possible. And what you can do is you click on install and activate, and your code snippet plugin will then be visible right here in the dashboard. You can see snippets, okay? And we're going to use these snippets area to add our own custom code. So we're going to do a very quick example. I'm just going to click on Add New and create our very first WooCommerce snippet or WordPress snippet, if you wish. While it loads, I'm going to take a look at this list of default actions that WooCommerce uses to put together the page. So let's say I want to remove blah, blah, blah. I want to remove the tabs from the single product page. So I'm just going to take this line, okay? So it'll say WooCommerce adds the tabs in this exact position. I'm just going to copy that, and I'm going to place that same code and paste it inside my snippet. Just going to zoom it a little bit. I'm going to give it a name, which is remove product, actually single product tabs, so that you can remember what this snippet does, okay? Now, I've just copied and pasted that line. In this way, nothing happens because my goal is to remove something, not to add, right? But because you have this list here of all the actions that WooCommerce gives you, in here, inside the snippet, you can just take out add action and instead write remove action. Now, with this very quick change, if I go and save changes to my snippet and I activate it, if I now go and take a look at the single product page, the tabs are right here. If I refresh with F5 on my keyboard, or with the button on the browser, just give it a little bit of time. I'm going to go back to the single product page. and tabs, which were in between the summary and the related products, are gone. So as you can see, you can achieve a lot of things with a single line of code. Is everything okay?
That's amazing.
Okay, good. Sorry, I overheard something. Okay, cool. So that means that you can take any of these add actions that WooCommerce gives us and, for example, remove the price. Just copy and paste these into a snippet, prepend, remove action instead, and you can remove the prices from the single product page. You can, for example, remove the related products, right? Just take this line, copy, paste it into a snippet, change add into remove, and you can remove the related products. One line of code, okay? So this is why I say that removing things is the easiest customization that you can achieve. Okay, so we're just going to do another example about the shop page, super quick. So there is a visual hook guide for the shop page, of course. There is a list of hooks that WooCommerce uses to put together the page. And I can simply do the exact same thing, which is I want to remove, for example, the prices from the shop page. I just copy that, go into my snippet, I rename this remove shop prices. I paste the code that I copied from the visual hook guide. I change add to remove, save changes. And now, if I go back to the shop page, which was this one, and had prices right here below product titles, in between product titles and add to cart. Let's see if this is saved. It has. So if I go back to the shop and refresh with F5, hopefully, and there you go, prices will be gone. So once again, this is such a handy thing to know. You can remove default WooCommerce elements with one line of code, even if you don't know anything about PHP, even if you've never written a single line of code. You can just copy paste and change from add to remove, and that'll work out of the box.
Rodolfo,
so if you have any question, yes.
One quick thing to add to that. So we watched you just change the existing snippet, but typically what folks would do they would create multiple snippets there in code snippets, one for each action. And then the other thing that code snippets lets you do is activate or deactivate individual snippets. So I just wanted to call that out for anyone following along closely. Excellent.
Yeah. So just if you want me to point that out, the next time we'll add a new one. And for now, we can just, if you wish, this is maybe the biggest positive thing about code snippets, which I repeat is for beginners. It wouldn't be the ideal platform to add custom code for an advanced developer, but it's a great start. And the good thing about that, you can just deactivate the snippet, and in that way you can toggle between the snippet being active or inactive or deactivated, and it'll basically just restore the functionality that you had before. So it's easier to test things, and it's quite handy. So we've completed the topic, which is removing things from the WooCommerce templates. Now we're going to do something a little bit more complex. We don't have a lot of time, but I just want to go and show you a little bit on how to add content to a WooCommerce page. So we're taking a look at the single product page, at the checkout page, for example, and the shop page as well. So why would you want to add content? Well, each website, each shop is different, is unique. And each client has different requests. So for sure, you might want to remove things, but very likely you might need to add content, you might need to add images, you might need to add HTML, you might need to add badges. So it's very important that thanks to customization, thanks to coding, thanks to PHP and the hooks that WooCommerce gives us, we can do absolutely anything we like and add any content we desire. So, for example, let's get back to the single product page. And our task this time is to add some content, for example, a subtitle just below the product title. Okay, so the very first thing that I do is I go to my code snippets plugin, I add a new snippet, and in the meanwhile, I'm going to take a look at the visual hook guide for the product page, and I'm trying to find a hook that is going to give me the exact position where I am going to place my content. Okay, so in case of the product title, probably I have to use the WooCommerce single product summary hook. I'm just going to copy this one, and I'm going to go into my snippet, which I don't know where it went. So just to make it easier, let's see if refreshing works. That's much better. Okay, here. So I'm just going to say add content to, and I'll show you why I'm not going to specify which page I'm going to add content to. So what I do this time, to add content, I just say add action. I open the brackets and I tell WooCommerce that I want to position my content exactly in this position, okay? After that, I need to call my trigger function. So I need to tell WooCommerce that in that position, it needs to do something. And this something could be called, for example, show subtitle. So you can give this function whatever name you wish, just put no spaces. And then semicolon here, right? Now I'm going to write my first chunk of code. Don't be afraid. Just test, because this is how I learn myself, just by examples, okay? So the way you create a PHP function is this way. You put function, a space, the function name, then open and close parentheses, and then open and close brackets, okay? And then this function must do something, of course. The way PHP allows you to print some content on the screen is by using echo. That's a simple instruction that we're going to give to PHP in order to print something. So we will say, for example, subtitle, okay? So what I've done is a new snippet, and I guess we're on YouTube, so you can watch and rewatch this part. If I'm going too fast, I recommend you rewatch this, just we don't have a lot of time to explain it again. So simply, I'm telling WooCommerce to place in this position what? Some content that I am calling thanks to this function, okay? It's easier seen than said, so I'm going to go to my single product page, refresh, and see what happens. Here you go. Something has come up, okay? So this very first snippet that I came up with actually gave me the exact outcome that I wanted. The only thing that is not really working is the position. I really wanted this subtitle to go right under the product title. So for that, I go back to the visual hook guide and study a little bit better how the product title is added. And I'm actually going to take a look at these 2 lines, okay? So WooCommerce puts the title with priority 5 and then puts the rating, so the feedback, the stars, with priority 10, and then puts the price with priority 10, and then the short description with priority 20. So I'm kind of thinking, because this is the exact order in which they show on the front end, that this number here defines where the content is going to show. And in this case, is exactly true. So what I have to do, if I want the content to go under the title, I simply need to say 6 or 7 or 8 or 9, because it has to be in between the title and the rating. So I go back to my snippet, and in here, I put comma 6. If now I update my snippet and go back to the to the single product page, still waiting for the snippet to update. Just sorry, my connection is so slow today. Can't help. So still saving here. Fine. Just going to refresh. And now this subtitle, take a look at what happens. Almost. It has almost achieved what I wanted. This problem is something to do not with PHP, but with CSS. So we will see that later on. So we don't have a lot of time. Jonathan, are you okay for me to add some content to the checkout page, or should I just stop here? I'm easy. I just
Rodolfo, let's go an extra 10 minutes. So
okay,
you go ahead, carry on, please.
Okay, cool. Let's do it. So let's forget about this for one moment. If you wish, we can do something else, which is move the subtitle below the, for example, below the tabs. Okay, I go back to the visual hook guide. Take a look at the call that adds the tabs, okay, which is this one. So it means if I pick this hook, I'm just copy and pasting, and priority 11, it'll show under the data tabs. So I'm going to my snippet. I'm going to replace this hook with this other one after single product summary. I'm going to change 11 here, save changes. And now, if I go back to my single product page and refresh, my subtitle should show the low internet connection when you need it, and whenever you. Anyway, while it loads, oh, there you go. So subtitle just went below. A little bit more complex, which is you can not only echo just content, you can even echo. Sorry, HTML, right? So that's super handy because HTML means images, means a lot of other dynamic content. So not only text, and if you wish, you can even add a CSS class, which means that as we've seen with Noëlle, you can target this class in your custom CSS and make it, for example, red and bold, and make it a border on top of it. So that's super handy to know that you can echo any content you like and basically HTML. Now, what I want to show you, and that's why I put add content to ... is that you can actually add content to any page, not only to the single product page. So go to my checkout page, for example, visual hook guide for the checkout page. I have the billing details, I have the shipping details, I have the order review. Let's say I want to add some content below the place order button. I'm just going to take this hook. I'm going to go into my snippet and change it to this one, review order after submit. I'm going to leave whatever I've added before, save changes. And now if I go to the checkout page and refresh whenever my connection will allows us to see it, we should be able to see something new below the place order button on the checkout page, which is exactly what I've put in the snippet, or and exactly this HTML, a paragraph with a class of subtitle with text content of subtitles. So let's see if this is kind wanted. And here it is. So this is great, for example, if you want to add security badges. Okay, for example, PayPal gives you a lot of images that you can use, such as secured by PayPal or you're safe with PayPal. Well, inside here, inside this snippet, you can actually echo, if you wish, an image. So you would put something like this, and the image URL, HTTP / whatever you like, right? So you can even echo images or your custom badges or your custom banners that you would have inside your media section. Well, you can just put the URL in there and you can show it on any WooCommerce page that you like. So I don't want to waste too much time, and I simply would like you to try as much as possible with these visual hook guides, because this is the only way to learn how to remove content, which is the easiest thing to do, and then how to add some HTML to any page, to any position that you like, just by picking the correct hook and the correct priority. Remember, the hook defines the position. The priority defines whether it's going to display on top or below whatever you have, whatever content you have there. So I suggest you ask as many questions as possible. It's your chance to learn, and we're happy to answer them. And John, if you want to take over, I'm happy with what I've done. I think it's enough information for now, and I'm available here for questions.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Rodolfo. And our hope today was just to give you a little bit of a sense of what's possible and encourage you, as you're hearing from all of us, to experiment, to try things. So, and one of the other incredible things, because this is WooCommerce and we're part of the broader WordPress ecosystem, is that there's an entire community here willing to support you and help you figure this out, right? As you're getting in there and trying things, eventually you'll come up against a wall, or you'll not be sure how to do something. You might search for resources and something, you can't quite find an answer for your situation. And we're excited to answer some questions here today. More importantly, though, there's a much bigger community available. There's a Facebook group with many members. There's meetups. I'll share that just a little bit later. And what I wanted to do now, though, is just take a moment. And Noëlle, you've been in the community for a long time, and you see a lot of people asking questions, and you've answered questions. You've asked questions yourself. Would you just give us a little bit of guidance on, like, when we need help? What's a good approach to asking questions? Unmute.
Sorry. Yeah, because how you ask your questions really influences like the type of response you're going to get, right? And the likelihood you're going to solve your problem. So give some background, like what are you exactly trying to accomplish? What have you tried already? And, what was the result and why didn't that work for you? Like, for example, when you're looking for a recommendation for extensions, if you've tried some, let people know so that they won't recommend those in the comments. And if they know like what you didn't like about them, it will help narrow things down. And, follow up with the people that have followed up with you, because some issues, they require some digging, some going back and forth. I've seen threads that are many comments long where people eventually together find the solution, which is so awesome. But it requires keeping an eye on the comments and, and replying back. And also don't forget to update your post when it's resolved, because it will help other people. And also if other people will then not like spend their time trying to help you for an issue that's already resolved, because of course time is valuable.
Amazing. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Noëlle. So we got a couple of resources for you to share before we jump over to Q&A. So first, I want to give a shout out to Rodolfo. He's been publishing content tutorials up on his site for a long time now. And Rodolfo, you just recently came out with a couple of courses. Could you just like give us a real quick overview of what you're offering here now?
Yeah, thank you. Simply, I'm just going to stop my camera as usual. My very first course was Customize Woo, which was a way to learn how to do exactly this, which is customizing WooCommerce, if possible, without installing loads of plugins that can be replaced with a line of code, such as the remove action that we've seen before. Then this year, last year, I added also configure Woo and troubleshoot Woo, which one is for beginners. So really understanding the settings. There's so much information online about the settings. So it's not copying anyone. It's just giving basically an idea what's going on with the settings and all the things that you can do. Noëlle said it earlier. There are so many hidden things in the WooCommerce dashboard that you really don't know that maybe you can do something without a plugin or without custom code. Is there, right? So it's just a matter of knowing what you can do. And troubleshoot Woo is for the more advanced people. Once you get into code, once you get into installing plugins, into going live with your WooCommerce site, well, the very first thing that you're afraid of is that white screen of death and the white screen going there for all your customers. And you want to learn how to fix that WooCommerce install as soon as possible. So, it's quite large as an offer, but I want to do more and more, as much as I can do. I have a small kid, but I'm so motivated and I want to, increase the number of courses and free videos as well, available to everyone, as well as my tutorials and tips. So thanks for introducing that.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you, Rodolfo. We appreciate all that you've made available there. A couple other quick resources. So for those of you interested in going a bit deeper into development, and again, when you're a beginner, I think the key here is to focus on just your curiosity. You don't need to understand it all, but just this is a developer landing page that has just a bunch of resources that are focused on developers. This is not beginner focused, but even as a beginner, it's great to sort of look around here and be curious and kind of build some context. So I wanted you to know that this exists. Another thing is WooCommerce Live. For those of you who are watching for the first time, we have multiple seasons of WooCommerce Live in the past. This can be a great place to catch up on specific topics. And we will be kicking off season 4 here in just a couple of weeks. And last but not least, the WooCommerce Community. We have meetups that are happening all around the world. And if you're not already a part of meetups, we highly recommend that you find one in your area. If there's not one in your area, reach out to us and we'd love to help you get one up and running. Awesome. So that is just about that. Thank you all for joining us today. We appreciate you taking this time with us. Thank you, Rodolfo, for being our guest and sharing your knowledge and expertise.
My pleasure. Thank you, actually. Thanks, WooCommerce, and thanks, Noëlle, and thanks, everyone.
Awesome.
behind this amazing organization.
We're now, our hope with this was to give you just a bit more confidence, right? With about WooCommerce as a whole, what it is, and that coding, that kind of getting started can be a lot easier than perhaps you thought. So we hope that you experiment, that you exercise that curiosity, that you try some things, and let us know what you do. Share it anywhere you'd like to, here on YouTube, on Facebook, Twitter, whatever you'd like. Send us an email. We'd love to see what you're doing with WooCommerce. And with that, we're going to wrap this portion up and move over to doing Q&A.